Hello again. Welcome to the Marc Oslar Retirement Experience. My name is Randy Cook. I'm here each week with Mark as we talk through some of the headlines, some of the things that are out there financially speaking. And if you're getting close to retirement, you haven't sat down with a financial advisor yet, you haven't really done the math on your retirement, how am I going to get paid, all that kind of stuff. Well, that is why we have this show, to show you that you're not alone out there and that there is help. And Mark has been helping people retire for an awfully long time. And we kind of go through some of the steps that he uses to help people find that retirement happy place, and at the same time also, knowing that you can do this, and with a little help you can. So let's go through that a little bit. Mark, how are you doing today?
I'm great, Randy. I hope you're doing well as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Here we are at the midpoint of summer, actually moving into August now, for crying out loud, and it goes by very quickly, doesn't it?
It does. It happens so quick. Just trying to get used to this hot summer.
Yeah, it has been. It's been pretty crazy as far as the hottest goes. I play golf with a lady who went over to Europe, and she's been there for 2 weeks, and I think it's the hottest it's ever been over in Europe. So I can't wait for her to come back. She's going to say, I'm coming back to Georgia to the cool. So there you go. All right. Well, let's dive into it here as we talk through some of the issues of retirement. And one of them certainly would be, how do you approach this? And Steve Rubino is the head of retirement at J.P. Morgan. And he was asked, if you could only give one piece of retirement advice, what would that be? I thought this was interesting. He's basically said this: you can't control the markets or the headlines. You can control how much you save, how you invest, and how you react during times of market volatility, which is basically what you and I talk about, is managing emotions. And that's not an easy thing to do, Mark, because we tend to, market goes down, oh my gosh, sell, sell, sell. And that might not be the thing to do. How do you help with that? I see that as one of your big roles as a financial advisor.
I'm glad you brought this up because, it's quite interesting. The platform that we use over here with Impact Partnership Wealth, we have a platform that really sticks to emotionless trading, right? So the group is called Market Guard. They've got their charter financial analysts, and there's a pure equity model that basically gets rebalanced every 3 months, every quarter, right? And it's based on non-emotional trading. And it's really important to understand that. Just like if you want to take money out of the market to put it into an insurance product like an annuity or into a CD at the bank, are you doing this based off of, oh my gosh, the tariff talk that we had last year or war or things like that we're going through, right? These are the questions that we have that folks, if you're making the decision based on emotion, it's not going to be necessarily the best action moving forward. If you have money in the market especially, you don't want to do it based on emotion.
I've gone to the Market Guard website, and there's a pie chart there, and it says, what is the success? Well, the success of a portfolio is based on what? And you would think, timing the market and doing all these different things. It's basically how you have your money placed. It's not when you invest, it's how you invest. And I think that that's one of the keys to when we talk about Market Guard is it's not all about getting NVIDIA at the right time or getting in on the ground floor of Google or getting in on the ground floor of that next great stock. It's having yourself broadly based and having a strategy that handles both markets, ups, downs, and sideways.
Right. And that's the thing. So if you have a good balance in your portfolio, that's the question you need to ask yourself. So how old are you? How many more years do you have before retirement? You might say, I just have a 60-40 portfolio. Well, let me understand a little bit better, because the way we look at the fixed portion of a portfolio is a little different than some other advisors might. So we're not thinking about bonds. We're thinking about what could be some good preservation tactics. And the one thing that we use on the show all the time is our mantra is affecting people's lives in a positive way. And we do it through this acronym PIG, preservation, income, and growth. We want to preserve what we worked our whole lives for. We want to have income tactics built in place with preservation tools so that we feel confident that when we go to bed and we wake up that the money's going to be there for the income because it's based on preservation. And then that preservation tactic for income needs to be used for taxes and inflation as well. If we do that, then we know what other portion of our portfolio we could be comfortable growing. You don't do that in your accumulation stage in in your life. In your accumulation stage of your life, you're looking for growth. You're looking for the G more than anything else. But when you get close to retirement, you start thinking about the P and the I, preservation and income, and how do we build those, and then you can grow everything else. And that's what really what we look at. And that's why being well balanced as you get close to and in retirement is really key.
And that's one of the things about a 401k is a 401k is really built for a place to hold your money, a place to grow your money. 401ks usually do not produce income. 401ks can have some, wiggle back and forth of, being more conservative or more aggressive. But at the same time, these vehicles that we use to save are not really the vehicles that we should probably use in retirement to do the P and the E as part of the P.I.G. We need other vehicles in order to give us those pieces, don't we?
Yes, we do. And that's the key. So we talk about a lot of different vehicles here on the show, right? And I'm not talking about automobiles. I'm talking about where we're putting our money. And when I talk about this, I'm discussing, hey, you've got insurance products. So annuities could be a fit for some folks. We're talking about fixed index annuities. We're talking about multi-year guarantee annuities. We're talking about the annuities that might have income riders. We might be talking about annuities that might have death benefit riders. We might be talking about annuities that have the long-term care types of riders. It could be a long-term care annuity. I'm licensed for long-term care, so it could be officially something like that as well, or a living needs benefit, which is the alternative. Then you hop into market. When we're talking about stocks, we're talking about ETFs, which stands for exchange traded funds, right? Maybe mutual funds, depending on the situation. Bonds, not so much, because as advisors, we actually lean towards using structured notes in those situations. We tend to find those a little bit more intriguing. They're a little bit more sophisticated, but I like the way they work because they have some buffers and barriers. We've talked about this before, where you allow a bank to borrow your money, and then they create a barrier where you can protect some money up to about maybe, let's say, 30% on the downside. But then at the same time, if it breaks the barrier, the entire loss is yours. And then a buffer where the bank would assume the first 20% loss, but if it breaks the buffer, then you assume. So, for example, if it's negative 25, you would have a 5% loss. We use structured notes to kind of balance things out. And so there's a lot of different things we do here, but we like to discuss and understand your specific situation.
The places where you've saved your money for retirement may not be the places where you put your money in retirement to do the things that you want to do. So let's sit down and discover what those things are. And to sit down with Marc and talk through those things, it's a no-cost, no-obligation look at your retirement. Really, it's a conversation. You've got questions. How am I going to get paid in retirement? Other than Social Security, how does this 401k become a paycheck for me? These are really good questions and questions you need the answers to. So to sit down with Marc and talk through it, no cost there. More2retire.com is the website. There's a place there for you to put a little information in. Marc reaches out to you, gets a date on a calendar, and let's go from there. Or you can skip all that and just give him a call. It's 984-300-1984. 984-300-1984. Well, you've probably heard this phrase a lot of times, that there's a lot of cash on the sidelines. And they talk about that during markets when they go up and down. And currently, there are $8 to $9 trillion, with a T, $8 to $9 trillion in money market funds out there. And so when the market goes down, people take some of that money and they, move it in on the dip, and then the market goes back up again. That's the way it's supposed to work anyway, unless the market keeps going down. But I want to ask about cash, Marc. Cash on the sidelines. We all know about an emergency fund, and we should talk about that a little bit. But how much cash should a retiree have for moments of opportunity? Or when the market is going down, maybe we use that as our bucket to take money out of. How much cash do people have?
This is another subject that comes up with a lot of my clients, and we're not talking about you having the actual physical green, okay? Folks ask me, is it okay to have some cash? Of course it's okay to have some cash, all right, some physical green. But when we're talking about liquidity, liquid money, that L word's really key in understanding. That means money market funds. That means savings. That means checking, things that you can access readily. But you can also access brokerage positions readily as well. If it's a stock or ETF, we can affect the transaction, make sure that the money comes back over in money market, transfer it to your bank, whatever it might be. right? In terms of percentage of what you should have in cash, it really happens to matter about what you're trying to do with the money. Are you going to buy a piece of property? I have a client right now that has money with me in the market, and we have a certain amount sitting in money market because we don't want to have that at risk simply because they know they're going to buy a property at some point. Okay. We don't charge on you putting money in the money market. It sits in we can have it sit in a ticker symbol FDRXX, and that one in particular has a certain interest rate. And a lot of times it's very competitive with banks. So if you want to open up a brokerage account with me, we'll use Fidelity as our custodian. And then if you just want to have a money market with some brokerage positions, we can do that. We don't charge for that. That'll just sit in money. And that can actually just transfer. As long as you have standing instructions, it can always transfer back to your bank, to your checking account, whatever it might be. But in terms of percentage of what you need liquid, it varies greatly. It depends on what you might need the money for. And that's why we have these conversations. It's all about, client-specific needs.
So is there a comfortability level with some people? They say, Mark, it just makes me feel good. I know $50,000 or I know $25,000 is probably what I need, but it makes me feel good to have $100,000 in the bank. And you go, okay, that's fine. If that makes me feel good, that's great. Okay. But what if somebody comes in and they've got $500,000, $600,000, $800,000 in cash, and you look at that and you say, that is a lot, and you could put some of that money to work. How's that conversation go? Because I know that cash on the sidelines is like a security blanket for an awful lot of people.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm talking to a client right now where there is an inordinate amount of money sitting in the bank. And, we know FDIC rules, right? And we understand credit union rules and stuff like that, and the insurances that they use for protection and stuff like that. Well, we have preservation tactics too. Within annuities alone, you always have the Guarantee Association Act that people like to fall back on. That can never be used as an advisor as a selling point. But just understand that if you're with an insurance company, their reasoning behind why they have all these preservation tactics built in place where you can feel pretty comfortable being in a fixed index annuity or something to that effect is because they have to have a lot of money in reserves. So generally speaking, and this is just off the top, if an insurance company's association commissioner finds out that the company has less than 95% in reserves, generally speaking, they might be looking at receivership. And that's not a bad thing because obviously they're protecting a majority of the person's funds, and then you have the insurance that falls behind it. With banks, they used to have a restriction where they had to have at least 10% reserves, and most banks do. That restriction was lifted a while back. And so folks don't know this. If you have a lot of money in the bank, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's guaranteed to be there, right? And that's why we should have conversation about where we should put the money. And yeah, I mean, generally speaking, we want to look at places where we can help you grow your money in the way that you need and your specific needs at this point in your life.
You're listening to the Marc Oslar Retirement Experience. Online, it is moretoretire.com. How much cash should you have in the market? How much cash should you have on the side? How much should be growing? How much should be in a place that the market doesn't touch it? All good questions. Let's talk through them. Here's the number. It's 984-300-1984, 984-300-1984, or use the website, which is moretoretire.com. So, all right, answer the question. Would you rather have $1 million tax-free or $60,000 a year guaranteed for life? It's almost like one of those lottery questions, right? Okay. In a recent survey, 75% of people said, give me the $60,000 a year for life. Why would they say that? Well, they probably did a little math in their head. If you had $1 million and you took a pull of $60,000 a year, you would last 16 years on that money without any growth, of course. But they would rather have that $60,000 guaranteed for their entire life. So this, to me, Mark, kind of points to the idea that we shouldn't be so focused on the big number that we have in our retirement account. We should be focused on the monthly number, and that's where you come in. That's the number that we really should be concerned about, and I think that's what's coming out in this survey. What do you see?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. If we don't have income provisions in place for retirement, that's a big concern. You and I have talked about this on the show before. Social Security. Social Security trust funds can be exhausted by potentially 2032. And their little plan is to come up with the idea that it could be reduced by 28% for everybody over a 4-year period of time. So about a reduction of 7% per year from that point in time, if they don't replenish or fix the trust fund that's going to be exhausted. Well, I mean, the last time I checked, Randy, it's 2026. We're getting closer and closer. So that's another thing that pops up. And do we have the income provisions in place? And so people have concerns. And when you get older, you get a little bit more conservative. Why? You get more conservative because you want to make sure that you know the income is going to be there. And what about inflation? Well, people are freaked out by inflation since 2022 because you go out to eat now and things are so different. It's difficult. The money is not as helpful as it used to be if you're working off the same amount of money. So if a person says $1 million or $60,000 a year, most people, other than a person that already has money and is an investor and feels comfortable with some risk and maybe some preservation tactics, understands the level of sophistication. And that's the point behind it is they get it. They already have money. They know what they can do with the $1 million. But if you don't have income provisions in place, we need to have a serious conversation because that's a big part of retirement planning, having preservation tools in place for the income so we can prepare for taxes and inflation. If we do, then we feel confident with everything else.
It is interesting how people look at their money in retirement. I was just reading and it says if you have Social Security money, pension money, and annuity money, money that comes in every single month, retirees look at that as income. They look at that as a paycheck. They look at that to spend. But then they look at their 401k and their investment accounts and they see that as wealth building, and they don't like to go into that account. So if you're thinking that I'm going to go into retirement and I'm just going to peel money off my 401k, your attitude is going to be different than if they were sending you a check every single month. And that is part of the retirement planning process, to sit down and say, Mark, this is what I've saved. How does it become a check? We talk about preservation, income, and growth. Let's get all three for you going in your retirement. Here's the number, 984-300-1984. 984-300-1984. It's a no-cost, no-obligation look at your retirement to sit down and talk about your questions, get them answered. And if you find that Mark is a good fit and we want to sit down and put the papers out on the table and start to really get down to your retirement math, let's do that. MoreToRetire.com is the website. And Mark, there they can see the steps to more. So let's go through that a little bit. As somebody gives you a call, what happens? What's the first thing that happens? How many meetings does it take? What are we going to be looking into?
It all depends on how ready you are to make a change in your life. A lot of times I ask folks if you have some investment positions that you go ahead and go to my website, which is MoreToRetire.com. We have a secure upload button in the right-hand corner. You can send that to us, and then you can go down and scroll to the bottom of the screen after you've uploaded that to us, and you can fill out your information, send me an email, and say, hey, I sent you my brokerage information. That's a good, easy way to get started with us, where I can run a Morningstar report, answer some certain data or information for you, and give you an idea of where you're at, and then we could talk about where you want to go. So that means step one, which is treetop view. That's our macroeconomics view of everything. We want to look big buckets of money, understand what you're trying to do with that money, and we can combine those first two steps with discovering your retirement desires and dreams and things like that. So we can do those two things at once while running a Morningstar report. If we don't, we could take it one step at a time. Treetop view, getting understanding of who you are, then maybe running a Morningstar report or discovering all your retirement desires and dreams. Step three is customizing a retirement plan for you. We're creating something customizable solely for you that makes sense and makes financial sense for you moving forward. And we do this because we want to make sure that we feel confident that we're doing things in your best interest. So once you affect that, you become a client. Then step four would be adjustments and changes and switches, because in life we have to be ready to make adjustments, switches, and changes. And step five is just all ongoing support from us. We're always going to be here for you. You become part of the Moore family.
So as you look through that whole list, and if you've never sat down yet and talked about your retirement along those lines, what does it look like from a 50,000-foot view? And now we're going to kind of zoom in and see who you are and customize a plan so that you can see what your retirement looks like. Have you had that done? And if you haven't, let's get it done, because I believe that you go through a meeting like that, you're going to learn a whole lot more about your retirement than if you just kind of keep Googling. And we're going to talk about that in just a second here. Give Mark and the team a call, 984-300-1984. 984-300-1984 or more2retire.com. Well, speaking of Googling, all right, I know you're sitting in the car right now, you're behind the wheel, and you have put your retirement into ChatGPT. You have put it into a retirement calculator. I know you have. And some of you have gone, hey, this thing says I'm going to be just fine. Now, Mark, have you had the experience where someone has come in kind of confident, feeling like, I'm going to be just fine. I put it in all these calculators, and you look at it and you go, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? Have you thought about this? And all of a sudden, it seems like they don't have all the boxes checked off that they thought they had.
Yes, this happens. You know, a lot of times there are DIYers, right? People like to do it themselves. Sometimes they're engineers and they really love to do business with themselves, and like when I compliment them on that, and that's what they're usually looking for. And then there are engineers, DIYers that are looking for advanced help because maybe they don't want to do this for the rest of their lives. And then there's the common folk that love to work with retirement calculators, but they're not DIYers, but they feel pretty confident about what they've built, and they really like, you know, using ChatGPT and all those things. What you're not getting is the human emotion with the artificial intelligence. And that's important to understand, because if you're not getting that emotional support, and we can, as human beings, understand things a lot better because we're living life. AI is not living life, okay? We gave it life, but it's not living life, not like us. It's not putting our shoes on. It doesn't understand all of those things. So the point is, we get where we can help you. And some of the areas are unexpected expenses. So let's talk about that for a minute. Everybody thinks about all the normal expenses. Then what you have to do is take the annualized expenses you have too. Then you need to start thinking about the unexpected expenses, home repairs, you know, things that need to be changed out, car repairs, keeping up a car, just preparing for inflation. Have you figured inflation with all these unexpected expenses? Do we have money on the sidelines for these things? These are the things that come up that we want to answer and help you get answers to. And it's not going to be through ChatGPT, and it's not going to be through retirement calculators. It's going to be through real conversation sitting here, either on a Zoom meeting or in person, where I can really help you lay out what you're looking for.
I've been to these sites and I've, put my information in there. I get it. And here's the thing is that there's no spot in there that says I just received an inheritance. There's no spot in there that say I just got a diabetic diagnosis and now I've got more medical stuff. I've got more drugs that I need to take. There's nothing in there that says I got divorced and now there's one check instead of two check. There's nothing in there like that. And so what you're experiencing there is a very generic, broad brush look with an algorithm that you don't know. What is the rate of return? What is the rate of inflation? How are they figuring out if you're going to be in the green or in the red? And to really know that, you got to sit down with someone like Mark face to face and have them ask all of those kind of questions and get through all of it with you. Let's do that. Let's go through that exercise and figure out where your retirement is now and where it can be in the next 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 years. Here's the number. It's 984-300-1984. 984-300-1984 for a no-cost, no-obligation look at your retirement. It's really just a conversation. And want to look at the website? It's more2retire.com. Just spell it right out. more2retire.com. All right, we're going to take a quick break here, and we're going to talk a little bit about being in the stock market. How do you emotionally deal with the ups and the downs? And we'll talk a little bit about that. And somebody who says, if you want to do this all yourself, you can do it, but you need to do this one thing. What is that? That's coming up on the Marc Oslar Retirement Experience.
A simple piece of paper. It's something we use every day. For the most part, it does what it's designed to do. It sits there flat on your desk as a placeholder for information. But with a couple strategic folds, suddenly your flat piece of paper becomes an airplane and flies across the room. Your 401k is kind of like that flat piece of paper. It just sits there as a placeholder for your money. Marc Oslar can show you those strategic moves to take your 401k from just sitting there to creating the income you need for retirement. Call today for a free no-obligation meeting. 984-300-1984. That's 984-300-1984. Or online at moretoretire.com.
Welcome back to the Marc Oslar Retirement Experience. Online, moretoretire.com. As you're listening today, you're probably thinking about retirement. You've seen some of your friends retire, and you wonder how this is all going to work out for you. Well, let's do the math on your retirement. Go to the website today, moretoretire.com. There's a place for you to put some information in there. Mark reaches out to you and just basically starts the conversation. It's a no-cost, no-obligation look at what you've been doing all these years and what it looks like for you in retirement. 984-300-1984 is the number. All right, so I read an article where an economist says the stock market is kind of like driving through a fog. And I've done that before. Many of you have driven through a fog before. What do? You turn on your running lights for safety and you slow down. Now, Mark, do you think that's how we should approach the stock market? We just have to, in retirement, we got to slow down a little bit because all these years it's been all about accumulation. Now it's about something different. How do we approach this stock market from a risk standpoint as far as how fast we should actually be going?
You know, we're going to start this off with a story.
Okay.
A few years ago, we were going up to Snowshoe Mountain, West Virginia, and I'd never been. And there was going to be snow that was going to be occurring. And so there's going to be, fresh snow on the mountain. Mm-hmm. Sounds like fun, right?
Yeah.
So we get in the car. We have another car following me. It's my family. There's 6 of us in my family, and then we have my brother-in-law, Ben, who is like a son to me. So he was with us, but it was me and Amy, Ariana, Callista, Finley, and Stella, and Ben. So we had 2 cars, stuff with us, and I'm driving, and I'm following the GPS that's on my phone. Well, it decides to take me through a Virginia area, through a park, and we're starting to go up and down a mountain, right? Mm-hmm. And as I noticed towards the top of the mountain as we're going, the weather's starting to get bad, right? There's sleet, and all of a sudden, there's no guardrails. Well, I'm not feeling too good, all right? Mm-hmm. I'm thinking, I've got to guide my family that's behind me too, right? Because Ben's driving the other car. So as I'm driving up this mountain, there's no guardrails, there's sleet. Then all of a sudden, there's fog. Then all of a sudden, the sleet turns to snow, and there's transfer trucks coming from the opposite side of the road, and I'm getting really concerned. What am I doing here? Well, what I will tell you is I did slow up. I slowed up quite a bit. And I didn't care if people were going to be upset, behind me or whatever it was. I was there to protect me and my family. When we finally got down that mountain, we went ahead and stopped at a gas station, and I just had to take a breather. And I will tell you, there are moments in life where these things occur, and you cannot let fear overtake what you need to do. But you need to be knowledgeable and you need to act. So if you just sit there and do nothing, then it's going to be a problem. Mm-hmm. So you have to be prepared to move and switch and change and ebb and flow. That's why step 4 with us is so important. Now, people think, well, Mark, I took your advice here, I took your advice there. Why isn't it working out right away? Well, I'm going to tell you something. I don't have a crystal ball, so it might not always work out right away. But we get the answers, and we look at the experts, and we look for solutions constantly for our clients because we're looking for a lifetime relationship. We're looking to affect your lives in a positive way and make good decisions for you. We don't want you to go up in that fog and that sleet and that snow, and we're going to try and help you avoid those things. And that involves good income planning, good retirement planning, talking with your CPAs and your attorneys, making sure you have the proper tax and estate planning in place. We want to be a part of all of this because we want to be a part of your lives and we want to be there for you. So when you tell me you have $500,000 to work for the rest of your life, I don't want to throw you up in the fog.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think about, driving, and every now and then you'll hit that yellow sign with the squiggly lines in it. It'll say dangerous curves ahead. What do? You slow down. You slow down.
Yes.
And that's really kind of what it is to walk into retirement. It's like, and I don't want to scare anybody, but dangerous curves ahead. There's just a lot of stuff that can get in your way. It's markets, it's inflation, it's taxes, it's all these different things. It's Social Security. They changed the rules. They're not going to give you as much as what you thought. All of these things are things you have to deal with in retirement. Let's get a plan for that. Let's sit down and say, if this happens, this is what our strategy is. And to do that, to sit down with Marc, ask those questions, get that conversation going. No charge, no cost there. MoreToRetire.com. Just start right there. You'll learn more about Marc and the team. MoreToRetire.com. Just spell it right out. There's a place on the website where you can put a little information in there, and the team will reach out to you and say, okay, what's on your mind? You can just call us as well. It's 984-300-1984. 984-300-1984. All right, so we talk a lot about, why it's important to have a financial advisor in your life. But there's many of you who want to try to go this yourself. That's okay. All right, there's a lot of information out there. Good luck. We hope you do really well. There's an article in Smart Asset that says if you choose not to use a financial advisor and do your own retirement planning, it's okay to go it alone if you use a target date fund. We've talked a lot about these, Marc, but they're basically saying a target date fund is the same as using a financial advisor. Tell me what a target date fund does and why it comes up short sometimes when it comes to doing everything that you do.
That's really embarrassing if I were to say that a target date fund could do what I do. All right. People ask me, like, I had a client the other day saying, oh, I haven't received that email with the paperwork and so on and so forth. And it's like DocuSign or whatever it might be. And I said, well, to be honest with you, Mondays are crazy, and I kept working, and all of a sudden, next thing I know, I'm at the office at 7:30 at night. Okay, a target date fund isn't doing that. Truth is, we have a lot to do. We run a business here. We see clients. My objective is to try and have the team do as much as possible, which means I have to delegate. I always have a problem with delegating. I'm working on it, right? But what am I doing? I'm sitting down with my clients. I'm talking to my clients, moving positions around, maybe changing up allocations for annuities as well. A lot of different things that we do, but we're answering questions and we're adjusting to things in life. We're getting change of beneficiary forms. We do whatever is necessary to get you in the position you need to be in. And we do a lot of things. And when you first start with us, it's all about where you're at, where you want to go, what you want to do. And discovering your retirement desires and dreams, it's really important to understand what you want to do in life now, because when you get a little older in life, you're not going to want to do the things you want to do now. And also, have we done some long-term care planning? Have we worked on these things? And no, a target date fund doesn't do any of that, okay? All it does is think that it's properly allocating you based on when you want to retire. So if you're doing like a target date fund that said 2025 or 2030, it's going to be a little bit more conservative. And that's really the conversation.
A target date fund is, in my opinion, a big, great marketing scheme. It seems good on the outside. The way they explain it is, I'm going to pick a target date fund of 2035, and as I get toward 2035, when I'm going to retire, it's going to move me more out of stocks and risk and move me more into bonds. That's the whole thing. But being a financial advisor, Marc, it's a whole lot more than just paying attention to somebody's risk. I mean, this has nothing to do with taxes. It has nothing to do with income. It has nothing to do with Medicare or Social Security or long-term care. There's so much here that doesn't get done. It just deals with risk. And when you take a look at the history of target date funds, in 2008, look at a target date fund in 2008. It lost a lot of money. Many of them did. So it didn't really, do exactly what it said it was going to do.
No, and that all it does is, like you said, is asset allocation. And is it the proper asset allocation? Probably not. You have a lot of things you need to think about before you retire. And that's I'm talking to you out there. If you got a 401k and you're already 59 and a half, we can get the planning right now on those funds and actually talk about what you can and can't do with that money that would be good for you. And then having that conversation. Now, if you're not 59 and a half, if you have an old 401k that's with an old provider, it's not with your current employer, that's available as well too. And the questions that come up are, what if I want to retire at 59? 62, 65. Okay, if you want to retire early, let's look at how you can do that. Let's see how we can get you from 59 to 62 to 65. And then what we do is we take things 1 year at a time, and we're just, unless you have a change or switch, we don't want to be, hasty about this. But what we do is we put together a real plan that makes sense for you and your financial future. A target date fund just gives you a low expense ratio. Expense ratio is an expense you see from the fund that you never see. It comes before you get your return, right? Well, expense ratio could be low on our market guard side too. A lot of our market guard models have some low expense ratios. And these are conversations we can have and just moving forward. But you might need to get more conservative. In your situation, you might need an annuity. You might need an income rider. You might need something with preservation tools in place so you can prepare for retirement. Because if we have another 07 to 09, where the S&P from high to low drops 56.5%, would that affect you? Because I'm telling you, a lot of people have this idea that they don't remember, this market amnesia. If you did live and let's say you retired around the 07 to 09 period of time and you had that loss, people were calling their 401ks 201ks because they split in half. And a lot of people don't want to revisit that. So these are the real conversations we have. And I had a client talk to me the other day about this. Has a certain amount of money, and it's all in the market. It's all in 401ks and an IRA. And we had this conversation about, well, if the market dropped in half, how much would you want to lose? Do you want to lose all 50%? Or if you had some preservation tactics built in place, what if you only had to lose 25 then? Mm-hmm. And that's a big difference, right? So let's have that conversation.
I think that one of the great disservices that labels that we have in our industry here is a 401k plan. Somebody put the word plan after 401k. A 401k is not a plan. A plan means there's a strategy. There's all sorts of different levers to pull and push in order to get you to where you want to be in retirement. A 401k is just a place to put money for it to grow, and you've got a couple of choices there of where you want to put it. It's not a plan. Let's get you that plan, and let's talk through what your retirement plan will be. Give Mark a call. It's a no-cost, no-obligation look at your retirement. It's really a conversation to say, here's where I am. Here's when I'm going to retire. Mark, what do I need to know? 984-300-1984. 984-300-1984, or use the website, which is moretoretire.com. So we don't want to overpromise, or, we don't like using words like guarantee and things like that here on the show. But I found an article in Market Watch that says this: a retiree who purchases a lifetime annuity can be expected to live longer than one who takes phased withdrawals from their retirement portfolio. Buy an annuity and you'll live longer. So I looked at the study, I looked at the article, and basically said this: when you have a guaranteed paycheck in retirement, that just eliminates a certain amount of stress in your life. And we all know that stress is a killer. So they say if you can eliminate financial stress, physical stress, mental stress in your life, annuity aside, that's going to help make your life better, and perhaps you'll live longer. Okay, I can kind of get down with that. But, at the same time, Mark, I've got to believe that the transition of going from getting a paycheck every 2 weeks to trying to draw money off an account is difficult. So to bring people from the work life into the retirement life and provide that same paycheck, that's got to be an easier transition.
Yes. And finally, Randy, we have proof. Annuities are okay.
It is funny that I knew that when we brought this story up, there's so many negative feelings about annuities, but this is kind of a funny story about it. But at the same time, the tenet of it is that eliminate stress. It's going to help your retirement. And I got to believe that there is definitely something to that.
For sure, Randy, for sure. I mean, Clark Howard, eat your heart out. Yeah, annuities are okay. No, seriously, when I look at the idea of somebody being in an annuity, it's specific to your needs and what makes sense for your financial future. When a person says, I would like preservation tactics built in place for my retirement income. Well, I mean, you can't talk about a better preservation place than a fixed index annuity or fixed annuity or multi-year guarantee annuity. Those are really strategic places to put preservation tactics in place, especially for income in the future. And the people ask, well, what about surrender charges? Yeah, a lot of these annuities have, 8 or 10 or 12 years, sometimes a little further if the person needs a big bonus to get out of situations. But the question is really, do you really need access to all of your money all at once? No, you don't. Of course you don't. But you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. A lot of insurance companies limit how much you can put in annuities anyway. So what you want to do is be strategic based on the person's risk tolerance. Figure out what you want to risk and what you don't want to risk. And then what we could do to build in preservation tactics and money that you're not going to withdraw all at once. Are you really going to withdraw your 401k and IRA all at once? No, the IRS, they would be happy. Uncle Sam would be thrilled to death, but you're not going to do it. But we're not going to put the money you need liquid into an annuity. That's important and strategic. Whatever we put in the market is still considered liquid. We can affect and make sure that we can get the money out of those positions, because if it's ETFs or stocks, they can be traded that day. But the point is, what do we need in preservation tactics for your future? And annuities are a great tool. You could have a lifetime income rider built in because maybe, let's say, you're only working off of $400,000 or $600,000, and you might need some of this money in annuity that gives you that lifetime income rider. That's what they're called. And maybe you live longer because of it. So we have these conversations because it's important to understand what you have and what you don't have. We don't want to rely on Social Security, and we do want to be prepared in case the trust fund is exhausted in 2032, because if they don't change anything, that's what's going to happen.
We've had two stories today and two different studies, and each one kind of says the same thing: is people who have a regular paycheck that hits their account every month seem to spend more, have less stress, and enjoy their retirement more. And when it comes to that, I've got a 401k. How does it become a regular paycheck that hits my bank account every month? And that means you have to take it from one financial vehicle into another. And how do we do that? Marc talks a lot about the different options that you have to develop income in retirement. Let's look at all of them to get you paid in retirement. Here's the number. Here's the website: 984-300-1984. 984-300-1984, or online, again, moretoretire.com. There's a place for you to put some information in there, and Marc will give you a call, and let's start the conversation. Find out what your questions are. What are your concerns? What's bugging you? Maybe it's, I'm really worried about long-term care. Grandma went into, had dementia, and boy, I saw how much that cost. Don't want that to happen to me. Okay. Let's talk through that aspect of retirement planning. There's all sorts of questions out there. Let's get them answered. 984-300-1984. All right, I want to talk about some surprises that people have as they go into retirement, because, you get in there and things might be going along pretty good for a while, and then all of a sudden, whammo, something hits you, like a tax bill or something like that, and you go, man, didn't see this coming. So here's a couple of curveballs that people have found in retirement. Two to begin with. 40% of retirees say that healthcare costs are way more than what they thought in retirement. And 20% of retirees say they're spending a whole lot more than what they thought in retirement. So maybe you take a look at those, Marc, and also what other surprises do you find people who come in and say, whew, didn't see this coming, Marc, I need some help.
Yeah, I had a client call me the other day, and we had built an income plan, and they need some money. They might want to go on a trip, do some other things, but they also had some unexpected costs come up. Some things happen in life. I think one of them was a pump for a pool, right? So there's just these things that come up that you don't expect and you don't see coming. Well, look all around you. Just look around your house. Look all around you wherever you're at. Everything in life costs money. So if we don't factor that in and understand, we're probably going to spend more money here and there. Hey, do you want to spend more time with your grandkids? Are you going to McDonald's a little bit more often because of that? Are you buying a bunch of bags of candy because you can give it to them and then send them on their packing way, right? I haven't had that luxury yet. I've got 4 girls, but the 25-year-old doesn't have any kids yet. We got 25, 21, 13, and 9. They're wonderful. The 25-year-old works with us here at the office, and you'll get to meet her and know her. And geez, let me just tell you, in life, there are so many unexpected expenses we don't see coming. Healthcare costs have risen, and they can be a challenge. Unless you're retired military, there's a lot of considerations we have to make if you're retiring before 65. And then if you're retiring at 65, there's a lot of considerations we have to make with regards to if you're getting hit with the first 2 years of higher premiums of Medicare costs, right? So a lot of these types of things we don't really consider, and we need to know are really important. Now, there are expending, and in retirement, when you first retire, you probably are going to spend more because you want to do traveling and other things. We can build that. We can build that into your retirement plan. But let's consider everything. Let's get it all on the table.
I think one of the big surprises that people have is that my Social Security could be taxed, or you get to this certain age for RMDs and go, what's an RMD? I say required minimum distribution. There's a point in your life at age 75 now that Uncle Sam is saying, well, you haven't been tapping into that 401k very much. Now we're going to make you do that. And it's a yearly thing. So these are little surprises that people have as they go through retirement. And Mark, you need some assistance here, because if you mess up your RMD, you could get penalized. It could cause you a penalty, just like if you goof up on your taxes. So, these are things that people, there's kind of a learning curve going into retirement. You have to learn about these things.
Yes, and that's what we want to teach here. We want to be a part of going over everything that you have. So when we go through our steps to more, we did the treetop view, but we want to discover everything, not just retirement desires and dreams, but everything. Let's understand what the unexpected expenses are so we can prepare, so we can stick to our guns with P.I.G, preservation, income, and growth. Preserve what you worked your whole life for. Make sure you have preservation tactics built in place for income so we can be prepared properly for taxes and inflation. And if we do that, then we feel confident and comfortable about our risk tolerance for what we can do with growth. And sometimes we could be a little bit more aggressive with the growth portion. And the cool thing is, whatever we're not using for income, we're using for growth, that could also be a secondary plan for being prepared for inflation as well. And I like to do that as a secondary thing for my clients too. So we will put this all together, talk to you about it, go over it, and we will answer all your questions. But let's be prepared for everything. And if we do that, you're going to feel much more confident going into your retirement years.
Think about all the preparation that you do in your life. If you're a doctor, you prepare for a surgery. If you're going to stand up in front of people at a bunch of clients at work, you're going to prepare for that speech. If you're a coach and you're going to go into a game, you're going to have a game plan and you're going to prepare your team for whatever is going to come their way. We've been preparing our whole life. Why not prepare for retirement? This is going to be perhaps 15, 20, 25, even 30 years of your life. Why not have a plan, a financial plan, a retirement plan going into those years, and one that can be adjusted along the way with someone like Mark, who can kind of walk right beside you as you're going through retirement. Here's the number. We do a no cost, no obligation look at your retirement. This is to sit down, get to know you, and say, what have you done for retirement? Where have you saved your money? What questions do you have? What worries do you have? Let's get it all out on the table. 984-300-1984. 984-300-1984, or use the website, which is moretoretire.com. That's all the time that we have for today on the Marc Oslar Retirement Experience. We hope you have a great weekend. We'll be here next week. We hope you will be too. If you missed some of the show today, check it out on our podcast, which is on iTunes and Spotify under the Marc Oslar Retirement Experience. Have a great weekend.
Insurance products are offered through the insurance business Marc Oslar Retirement Experience. Marc Oslar Retirement Experience is also an investment advisory practice that offers products and services through Impact Partnership Wealth, LLC, a registered investment advisor. IPW does not offer insurance products. The insurance products offered by Marc Oslar Retirement Experience are not subject to investment advisor requirements. Investing involves risks, including the potential loss of principal. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims paying ability of the issuing carrier. This radio podcast is intended for informational purposes only. It is not intended to be used as the sole basis for financial decisions, nor should it be considered as advice designed to meet the particular needs of an individual situation. Marc Oslar Retirement Experience is not permitted to offer, and no statement made during the show shall constitute legal or tax advice. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. The information and opinions contained herein are provided by third parties that have been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by Marc Oslar Retirement Experience. Market Guard is a firm that provides investment signals as well as portfolio allocation recommendations for a wide variety of model portfolios. Market Guard does not offer advice or enter into fiduciary relationships. Please remember that converting an employer plan account to a Roth IRA is a taxable event. Increased taxable income from the Roth IRA conversion may have several consequences. Be sure to consult with qualified tax advisor before making any decisions regarding your IRA.